Hey everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and I have a beautiful guest, Lili Hernandez, who is a therapist, a life coach, a podcast host, and the name of her company is Lost Beauties. And I can't wait to introduce you. So, welcome, Liliana. Thanks, Lili, for being here.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much, Wendy. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You just recently had this huge pivot where you did something so bold and had to step into faith, into your purpose. And I was wondering if you could share with the audience what that looked like for you and how you came to the knowing and then having the courage to do it.
Oh, yeah, you were just like straight, let's get to it, right?
We're going right in. We're deep diving right in.
I love it. I love it. Yes, this huge pivot. So, and definitely taking that step into faith is that I ended up resigning from a position that I was in. I was at this agency for about 9 years. I've done mental health services for about a total of 16 years now.
Wow.
I've worked in the community mental health field for that amount of time from the beginning of like even just going to school. So I had sort of worked my way up this ladder at this agency from like literally like intake services like phone and just, as I was getting licensed and moving into like a supervisor and then managing a program and being a program manager for intensive mental health services into the director of this agency out in this area. And I was working there and I thought, God, this is like the top. This is where I'm at. This is what I've been working so hard for. I went to school and I got this degree and I've just been putting it to use. And, I sat there for a moment like, this is like, my mom's dream. Like, she's good. She made it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there was this just thing that happened in life where I'm driving in and this is literally the moment that the pivot takes is I'm driving in. So I had gone from a 45-minute commute to about an hour and a half one way. So round trip, about 3 hours.
A day.
A day.
A day.
And I work 5 days a week. And I live in I cross the San Fernando Valley to come into where I live. And if, God forbid, there's a fire or there's too much rain, right? It turns that hour and a half into 3 hours easily.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Fires, they shut down the place towards, the way I drive up. So I have to wait out for a while. Anyways, I'm driving into work this morning. And what happened that morning is that I had been getting up. I had been feeling sort of off for a couple of weeks and, maybe more than a couple of weeks, but just, it was coming to this point and I ended up waking up this morning with a really bad migraine. And I just thought, I can't, like, I emailed into work and I let my boss and HR know that I was running a little bit late, that I was experiencing this migraine. I was going to take some medication. And then I'd been in. Sure enough, took my medication, went back to bed, woke up in a couple of hours. And I thought, okay, headache's gone. We're good. And I drive into work. So about 25 minutes into the drive, I get this overwhelming feeling of dread. I don't know. And it bubbled up and it just came out as tears. And I'm sobbing on this freeway. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with me?
Whoa.
Literally.
Wow.
Literally. Where's this coming from? Literally. And I was like sobbing and I'm like, okay, like what's wrong? And I'm like, literally, there was a moment like pull over or get off, turn back. And I'm driving and the question is like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And the thought is, feels like your soul is dying.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. You know that feeling.
You know it in the core of your being.
Like, where did that thought come from? What does that mean? Soul, right? Like, I feel like my soul is dying. And even just the thought, I was like, it gave me a sense of like, okay, like I think the tears might have like sort of stopped flowing. And I thought, okay, and I'm driving, you know, and then the next thought is, I need some soul CPR.
Wow.
And that thought within itself, Wendy, was like, yeah, yeah, okay, that like that's something. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant. I don't know where it came from. I didn't in the moment. And I just thought, yeah. And that like just sort of had me get composed. Like in the mirror, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like eyes are glossy, we're good. Okay. Like by the time, like in another hour, I'll be good to like show face at work.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of it. It was like, what was that? Prior to this, I'd been feeling tired, fatigued, out of it, discombobulated, this feeling of like not being connected to your body, like your mental, like even just you're in your head and there's almost
Did
this
you
feeling
feel
of
like associated?
dissociated 100%. Yes. So there's been these moments, and you know, I would go to the doctor and I was like, okay, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I'll practice my some essential oils and like lavender, and I'd go to bed with some lavender, and I'd use what I wanted and needed, and okay, well, I still feel the same. Like, okay, doctor, they're like, oh, it's probably stress, and it seems like you're a little dehydrated as well. Drink more water. I was like, all right, I'll drink more water. Great. Okay. But I still feel this way. And, I went to go get massages, and I went to go get, like, you name it, externally, like trying to figure what is this? So as I had this moment, I just thought, those things haven't worked.
Right.
What else can it be? And as I thought about, the rest of the drive in, and I'm thinking, like, if my soul's dying, like, what is that trying to tell me? So I had an hour drive to really, like, it's one of those moments to talk about dissociating, that I arrived to the office and I was like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because I was so lost in thought. I was so on auto mode. Like, what does that mean? My soul is dying. Well, what does my soul need? What does it need that I haven't given it to it? I mean, I feed it, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm drinking water, and I'm, getting massages, and I'm trying to relieve stress. And what is it? To the point that I had gone to the doctor. When I saw my doctor, she said, it seems like there's a little bit of anxiety going on. I'm going to give you some Xanax. And I used it on as needed basis, which I think for me, it worked, taking it at night before bedtime, because it would shut down my brain. No thinking, no thoughts, no lists, no what am I doing tomorrow? No, don't forget, don't this, don't here. And I would be able to rest, and I'd be able to wake up and be functional. And there was a moment that I'm like, but is this it? Like, that was one of my thoughts. Is this it? Is this the rest of my life? Go home, go to bed, get up, go to work, drive an hour and a half, maybe 2, maybe 3, get to work, deal with, let's not even get started with that. Yeah. Because it's mental health services, but you're the one going crazy.
Right.
And that might resonate with a lot of people, right? We're in the mental health services, and we feel like we aren't taking care of our own mental health.
Never.
Or as a team member, I'm not providing enough support for my team. Am I giving them stress? I stressed about that a lot. Me and our higher ups, we would butt heads. I and them would butt heads a lot about, what did that mean? I don't want to be a trauma-inducing supervisor. So I think a lot of my work responsibilities really crashed with like that heartfelt part of me that says, but that doesn't feel right. So it took me a while, right, to kind of figure out. I ended up going to a therapist and really kind of figuring out that even just, I had a trauma bond with work.
That's huge. That's an aha moment. A trauma bond with work. Like, that is so many people's story. Tell me a little bit more about that. What did that mean for you?
So the way she pointed it out for me was, you're in an abusive relationship with this agency. and you think about the cycle of abuse, right? And you think about how there's the honeymoon stage and everything's great, and you're like bobbing your head and saying, yep, that's what you need, that's what you want, got it, okay, no worries, no problems. And then you're doing your work, and they're like, that's not what we mean, that's not what was said, that's not working, why aren't you doing A, B, C, and D, and why is X, Y, and Z happening? And then you're like, oh my God, okay, like then there's that part of that fear of like, okay, what's going to happen? There's going to be, there's tension building,
there's that adrenal response, there's that fear, all of it's coming up,
all of it, right? And when you talk about trauma bond, it's they've given you something, and you're like, I'm so grateful for this, thank you so much for the opportunity, I am the director of this, of the site. And and maybe part of, one of the things that I learned in therapy was like, that was part of how I was raised. You become very grateful for what you're given.
Right.
So therefore, this is what I'm offering. And then how do you live up to those expectations? And in living up to those expectations that sometimes were just in my own head, I was like, I'm not doing a good enough job. Like, do I deserve being here? Do I deserve X, Y, and Z? Right?
Right. That worthiness piece plays such a role in, you're striving and you're achieving and you're receiving. And like you said, you get to this pinnacle point and you're like, I don't even deserve, I'm not doing enough. I need to go harder. I need to strive harder. I need to hit it. I need to create it. I need to achieve it. Even though you've accomplished so much, it's not enough.
Right.
And you just keep, I liken it to chasing your tail, like a dog chasing its tail. You'll never get there. You'll never catch it. You'll never be it. And it's so devastating for perfectionists or people who, obviously you're speaking my language, right? I have a little association with it myself. And then you stop and you think, why am I doing this?
That was a question. Why? For whom? Right? Because it wasn't making me feel better. And as you're ending up this cycle of abuse, it was sort of like, then there's the explosion, and there's that letdown, and there's that part, right? Like, what part of this do I deserve, and how can I make it better? And like, tell me what else, do you need to see happen? And then we start all over. Okay, this is what I need. And you're like, I got it. And now I'm working like 50 hours and 60 hours. And I'm like, and
meanwhile, your soul is dying and withering.
Your soul is
literally dying and shrinking and disappearing on you.
And you're like, okay, no, but okay, that's not important. That we'll figure that out.
You keep fixing it, right? You keep fixing it. I can fix this. I can fix this. I can do this. I can make it better. But there's no way, it will never be enough. It'll,
and that was the realization. For something that isn't owned by you, will it ever be enough for them? Because they know that you can perform at this level, and their thought is, think about business. Well, then what else could I squeeze out of them?
Push her harder.
How else? Right? Yeah. Push her harder. She knows she's great at what she does. If we just push her a little bit more, we'll take her to the next level. Right? And you fall for it, and you're like, yeah, what else is on there? What else is on the agenda? What else can we do? And there was a moment that I'm like, I don't feel good about it on so many different levels. So I have this moment. I'm like, I need to do something about it. I'm in therapy. She helps me see a couple of things. When she gave me not only the trauma bond connection, and you're in a DV relationship with your agency, I just thought, whoa. Because her question was, as a therapist, Liliana, what would be the question you ask your client? And I was like, those are the questions I got to ask myself. Right. So I was like, okay, there's a connection. So what's my plan? What's my escape plan? How do I make something out there safe for me enough to be able to leave this and be okay here? Because a lot of the fear then becomes, well, we gave you this, this is a title, this is what, this is what you wanted, we offered it, you took it, you're here because you wanted to. And now that was all in my head. Now you're all of a sudden, it's not what you want. And I thought, it was what I wanted and needed in the moment. Today it's different.
I think we need to give ourselves permission to pivot.
100%.
Because We're constantly evolving. Circumstances are constantly changing. We're becoming better versions of ourselves. And that requires us to let go of things that no longer serve us, even though they offer security, financial security, physical security, whatever kind of security it is.
Yep.
And that's the hardest place between knowing that you have to leave it and then actually letting go of it and leaving it.
Yeah.
Because that is so scary.
And it was because I had, because of that, bought my first house.
Right. Because of that
Right?
income, right?
Because of that income and everything that it provided. And I thought, what does that mean? What does that look like? And again, you know, as a therapist sort of, you know, is helping me sort of explore different parts of different places of me. I just thought, if I did it once, I could do it again. That without a doubt, I know that of me. So how do I secure something that makes me happy to be able to say, okay, here it is. So, you know, come fast forward, you know, I'm working on that. That was probably in late 2018, maybe 2018. So I'm like figuring out what else is in the horizon for me. What does that mean? What does that look like? I am doing private practice supervision for a mental health agency, a nonprofit startup. And I love the supervision portion of it. And, you know, I end up getting a couple of clients, and I'm doing private practice clients. I'm seeing life coaching clients. And I thought, if I can do this all the time, oh my gosh, like that would be what I need. So I'm like thinking, yep. I come to the conclusion, I write it in my agenda. June 30th, 2020 is my resignation. Like that's my last day. So obviously a month before that, I'll be resigning. And I put that on my agenda late December 2019. And then the world changes, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, as soon as like March, April hit, and I thought, oh my gosh, like June is around the corner. That's not happening. I don't know what's going to happen with anything tomorrow. And the good thing from that was that because I was commuting about 15 hours a week, and now having to work from home, I got to turn those 15 hours a week into private client time. So I was like making money while I was losing money on the other end. So I squirreled away money, and I'm like, something's going to be of it. Market's doing well, sell my house, buy this home, and I move because I had the opportunity to still be employed where I was. And I move in here January of we closed in December of 2020, and I get my keys in January of 2021. And in January, I thought, this is still doable. You working on your own private practice clients. And, you know, unfortunately, it is what the world needs right now, or fortunately, and depends on where you are and who you are in getting it. That I knew this is where I needed to be. So I recalendared my resignation on my calendar, on my agenda, and that was the goal. And I moved forward. And as my client, I kept my client, private practice clients very low because I still, you know, had my 40-hour my job. But in sort of knowing this is where I'm moving into, I really just started to sort of fall into this place of like even feeling better, breathing easier, right? Like needing anxiety medication less and less. And sure enough, right? Come June, I let my boss, there was tons of things that happened in the world and in life and, you know, family and COVID and
everything was pointing you in that direction.
Everything.
Right?
Everything. So I resigned, and I walked away from that agency July of 2021. So I've been self-employed in July will be a year.
Wow.
In July. And in that time, I had time to sort of like settle into everything that was me, my own joy, my own happiness, knowing what it was like to breathe, right? Like not having to have that anxiety that would erupt, or those nightmares, or the lack of sleep because X, Y, and Z meetings were coming up.
Think about all of the energy you reclaimed to pour into you, that you were pouring into that other life, must have been huge.
As you put it that way, I'm like, I don't think I've thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Reclaiming that energy for me that I was like trying to disperse to make things happen was now mine.
Now you're building your own practice. You're building your own joy, your own fulfillment, your own bank account, your own everything, right?
Everything, your own hours.
Yeah. Structuring your own life.
Your own day. I loved this part. I was so like, this is what I'm going to do. I was working for about 4 or 5 months, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Love it.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, and then I would work.
That must have been incredible.
It was like, yeah.
Did you feel like you won the lottery? Like, I literally just won the lottery. I'm paying my bills.
It took me a moment. It took me a moment because I would literally sometimes just sit up thinking, where am I supposed to be? Oh, wait, nowhere. That's right. It's Monday.
I love it.
Or something's missing. It feels off.
It was like a little PTSD, right? You had to like process this PTSD of your old life and transitioning to your new life. It's like you had to kind of recalibrate and just settle into the new way of being.
Exactly.
That's so huge.
And I thought, these are my day. I get to program my days, my hours, when I'm off, when I'm working. If I decided to see somebody on a Friday or on a Monday because we had to reschedule, I chose to say yes, or I'll see you next week. Right. And
what was that freedom like? What was that freedom like? Just being able to structure your own life.
That was the lottery. That was it.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. My choice, like my thoughts, my decisions. No one, talk about clocking in and clocking out, PTSD. Talk about having to show up for meetings, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about having to talk to a staff because their productivity is really low as a supervisor, PTSD, right? Knowing they're going through their own stuff.
Yeah.
They just had a baby. They're not sleeping as much as they would. They're
under their own life pressures and ticking time bombs,
Exactly.
And you have to go ride them.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because productivity is productivity.
Right.
And not having any of that was like, okay, this is me. This is what I need to do. So it took me a moment to kind of be comfortable with it. I did a lot of gardening during these days that I was like, okay. So, it took me, I did some definitely a lot of work to the house, and I realized I love that part of like creating, putting things together, using my hands to do things.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm like really handy. Like Wendy, I installed my own toilet.
What? I'm impressed. I'm so impressed. Isn't it fun and satisfying when you actually get to do the work and then you sit back and you're like, I just did that. And it looks amazing, by the way.
And it's functional, it works, and I didn't need anything or that.
Cool.
That just feels so good. So then I started structuring my days and my hours to be like, I came to this realization as well. I don't function very well after 2 o'clock. It's my downtime. I need to like, after lunch, I want to like just sit, relax, enjoy it, let it digest, and not have to jump into like a session. Mm-hmm. So I thought I cannot have 2, 3, 4 o'clock sessions because I know I'm the best that I can be in the moment, but I could be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I shifted my clients to morning hours. So I have 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock sessions, 11 o'clock, and I'm good. And I know that after that, I'm like, I don't have to worry about trying to keep myself awake with some caffeine or with, X, Y. No, I'm like, I'm done with my day.
I love it.
I'm done with my day. And I'm like, I feel productive after that. If I take a little nap or I really enjoy my lunch for longer than I, not even need to or want to, like, because I won't, I can.
Right.
And then do whatever it is that I need.
Isn't it amazing not to have a reason to do something, to have this space to create? Because I find, yesterday I was posting on my social media how, at like 1:00, I was like, I'm done. Like, no more work is happening today. I'm done. And I just like sat on the couch. I stared out the window, had some tea. And the old me would have been chastising me, like riding me the whole time. That narrative, like, you should be doing laundry. You should be, if I'm not working, I should be working at the house. I'm like constantly proving my worth by being busy and productive. So that was like an old program and paradigm I had to break, because I found that when I take this time literally to do nothing, like I'll go out on my patio and sit in the sun for 20 minutes, and stare out at the traffic or whatever's going by, birds flying by. I get so much inspired information. It's like I create space to connect to my higher self, and I just get downloaded ideas of content to create, or classes or events, or it's just right there. It's like when I give myself permission to stop and just kind of daydream and drift around, all kinds of inspired information comes in,
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly. And as I hear you, I'm like, yep, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I know exactly what that's
you're
like.
gardening, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can create this program, or I could do this group, or I could.
Yep.
Right? It's amazing.
Constantly like a thought, an idea, a topic. So all of this, mind space that's just available, right? The thoughts that are yours, that you're not kind of like moving to the side because you're like involved in this, or you're like,
right.
Oh, you know what? That's a great thought. Oh, okay, but I need to be focused here because X, Y, and Z.
And then the thought's gone. You forgot it. You're like,
gone.
Why didn't I write that down?
What was that thing? What was that? Right? And then you get so frustrated.
But I kind of feel that's like what I call creating from the quantum field. It's creating from your soul versus creating from your human. Because our human mind wants X, Y, and Z. It wants structure. It wants timelines. It wants productivity. It wants, you to hit certain markers, and there's a big attachment to the outcome. But I found by just letting all that go, trusting my process, receiving the information, executing without attachment, allowing the clients to come. Like, I stopped chasing. I just started attracting. I stopped hustling. I just started being. It was like my power amplified, and everything in resonance just started coming. People start referring clients, and you're not even trying. People are calling you and scheduling and booking, and then you're turning people away, and you're just like, I don't even know, because I feel like I'm doing nothing, but all this stuff's happening.
Right. I love that. Stopped hustling and started being. I don't think I think about this often, especially when they take the payment, and I'm like, oh my God, I paid for it again this month. Is the website where I'm listed as a therapist, because I haven't gotten a new client from the website in like 4 or 5 months.
I know, right?
Because I've gotten referrals of referrals,
right.
And I'm like, okay, okay, don't forget, cancel that, pause that subscription for a hot moment, because you're paying for nothing right now. But definitely just letting things sort of like just happen.
And don't you find like the right people are coming? 100%. I'm not even having to really turn people away, because there's some sort of energetic resonance, and the people who aren't meant to work with me either cancel or fall out or have to reschedule. I've had clients pay and just no show. And I'm like, you have all these sessions booked. I guess when they're ready, they'll come, or they'll never come. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to go chase them down. It's like, they know that they paid for these sessions. I'm available.
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting? Like,
It's
just
so
that
interesting.
attraction's magnet. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm now sort of living in that place, right? You've been there for a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm loving, and I love like just having these thoughts and these ideas, and just like, writing things down. I have those large post-it notes everywhere. I have one on the door in my bathroom. I have two in my room. I have one in the sliding door in my kitchen area, because as soon as I have a thought, I want to write it down.
Yeah. Don't you feel like you're in the flow?
Yeah.
Like you were just fighting through the struggle every day, like the drive, the bullshit, the stress. Like, and when you can just let go of the things that aren't aligned, it's like you give the universe permission to just be like, this is coming for
Like,
you.
oh, thank you. Yes.
It's just like you're aligning with your
100%.
your potential and your truth and your soul, and everything, it just starts to flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know, right? If you're in this push-pull struggle, if you're feeling like your soul is dying, it is. And you have to choose something different, because if you don't, you're going to have a nervous breakdown, you're going to get sick. Something more intense is going to, car accident is going to get your attention and get you to pay attention. But I notice people have such a high tolerance for suffering. They know what they need to do, and they know what they know years sometimes before they actually take action.
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because again, the right clients come in at the right time, and it is what it is. And I hear this so often, right? Like, this has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened, and all this stuff has happened. And the thought of themselves is, one, I deserve this. Like, I've done something to deserve this hurt and pain.
Right.
Or it's a test. It's a test. And today I'm like, oh, what? Right? Like, it's a test. Like, okay, if this is a test and this is a test, like, is there an exam? Like, is there something above it? Like, where are we with this? Because if our thought is like, I'm supposed to endure this, it's the martyrdom syndrome, right?
Yeah, we were talking about this. So Lili came to my book event in San Diego. We had breakfast before the event, and we were talking about this, like our family of origin story, our cultural programming, these expectations and that we're conditioned and programmed to. These expectations we're meant to meet, these programs we're expected to align with, which is, being the good girl, doing everything at our own expense, people pleasing, making sure that everyone's taken care of at our own expense. Like, we're not worthy of our own love and attention. Mm-hmm. We're here to serve and meet expectations.
Here to serve. Right? Here to serve. If I, as you're saying that, I'm like, maybe the book exists, and if it doesn't, we should definitely work on a book called F the Good Girl, because
we should write that book.
Being the good girl, because think about it. Even I was having a conversation earlier with someone, and she asked her significant other, she wants him to be her significant other, and she says, well, what do you want? Right. And he says A, B, C, and D, and he wants to chill, and it's slow, and mm-hmm. And I said, well, and did he ask you, what did you want? And mm-hmm. she's like, well, no. And I said, well, then how did you respond? And she's like, okay. And I thought, whoa.
Back it up.
Half of my thought was, one, we often ask questions in lieu of conversations, not only to be didactic, but to be reciprocated. How are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, good. How was your weekend? Oh, it's great. How was your weekend? Mm-hmm. There's always reciprocation in what we do. So if we're asking the question, what is it that you want? Her need was to know, did he care about what she wanted?
Right.
And as a good girl, like, you don't want to just jump to conclusions. You don't want to scare him away with
don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat.
That's what he said. Fine. And I said, what would have happened? What do you think would have happened? What would have been his reaction if you said, well, this is what I want? Mm-hmm. And her words were, God, that sounds really blunt. Really? What else? It sounds like really serious. And she used the word strict. What does that remind you of? Kind of like my mom, like, this is what I want, this is how I want, and this is what I, like,
or maybe
right?
church.
Oh,
Church.
thank you. Right.
You gotta follow these rules. Like there's no room for compromise or discussion. I learned really early, you don't question what you're told. You do what you're told.
You do what you're told.
Period.
Oh,
there's no room for conversation.
But think about that. Think
right?
about that. If we grow up learning to do what you're told, and this is going to go sideways real quick, is why is it, are we really surprised, is the remark, are we really surprised that abuse exists?
Right.
Any kind, right?
Right.
You do as you're told, and that's it. Because I said so, right? That we learn to just follow rules and just do as people say.
With no discernment. No discernment. Also, guilt.
Oh,
if
shame.
you don't, guilt, shame, if you don't follow and run with the herd and do what's expected and stay in the box and behave and be that good girl, you're a problem.
Yeah.
You're a problem and you need to fix it.
Right.
But nowhere in that equation are we learning emotional safety. Nowhere is there compassionate inquiry. How do you feel? How do you feel? And no validation of our feelings. We learn to stuff and bury it and man up and do what's expected at our own emotional expense. We also are taught that we're not allowed to be ourselves because you're not okay. You have to do and be who we tell you to be at all times. And if you're like a rebel, like I was a rebel, like I'm like, don't put me in that box. I was like a spider monkey, my hands and feet out, like you're not pushing me in that box. And my mom was like trying to shove me into that box, like get in that box.
Yeah.
And I was such an enigma to her. She's like, why won't you comply? I tried, I really did, but my soul just wouldn't let me.
It wouldn't.
You know?
It wouldn't let you.
And then that becomes like this whole like, you're unworthy, you're not good enough, you're not meeting my expectations. Then you carry this guilt and shame. And it's just like this spiral down into this unworthiness that we have to fight to find ourselves.
Yep. Once again, right? And I think that's the part of like that soul CPR that I sort of kind of walked into. Yeah. And I did some like digging and some searching in regards to me. What do I like? What do I want? Right. When I would go to lunch and to dinner with friends, and I honestly thought my decision came from, I don't really care. I really don't. It's food. It's going to make me not be hungry. Great. I don't care. Whatever you want. Do you want this restaurant? Sure, that works. And
how did you shift? How did you pivot that? How did you start speaking your truth?
So I started sitting back and assessing. So during this year and change, one of my thoughts was like, okay, you want things to be different. What things do you want to be different? So I started to be very, very in the moment of like sitting back. Things are happening. And I thought, this was my thought in the moment. How do I really feel about that? Okay, we're going to go get Chinese. Are you good with that? Yeah, that works. And then the thought was, do you really want to? No, I really wanted, Mediterranean. Well, then why don't you say that? Ladies, would you guys mind Mediterranean today? Oh my God, I haven't had that one spot. Yeah, let's go. And I was like, wow, okay, all right. And it just took those little moments,
Right.
Do you want to drive or do you want me? I hate driving. Like I take that back. I love long drives where I can think, and that's like my think box. And I love that. But if they're like, oh, well, let's go down to X, Y, and Z, and you're like in the middle of traffic, no, I don't want to drive. And I would be like, I'll do it. I'll take it. No problem. I'll take my car. That's fine. We'll take my car. I'll drive. I'll take my car. It's fine. And then later on, I was like, but I'm not. because I don't get reimbursed for any of the time or the gas or
Gas
the,
or,
wait a minute, why?
and then it
Why
becomes an
would I say yes?
expectation.
Well,
Oh,
Lily drives
Lily
all the
will
time.
drive. She'll pick me up. And
She drives all the time. She loves
yeah.
driving. No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
How many
So,
people are living that every day? Can you drive my kid to carpool? Can you carpool? Can you pick my kid up? Can you just drop him off at home?
okay,
I'm busy.
sure.
And then you just start to lose yourself because you're just in this pattern of service
Yes.
at your own expense.
So that was my first thing. Just
Huge.
assess. What does it feel like to say that? And what does it feel like to just speak your truth? Sometimes it was scary. I would get this warm feeling. I know my cheeks like had flushed, and I'd be like, actually, why don't I meet you guys there? Because I have a couple of other things to do. And they're like, oh, yeah, we thought you would be driving. Yeah, but I really want to have access to my car and not have to worry about anybody, leaving a good time because blah, blah. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And they were like, everybody's so respectful of like, yeah, sure, no problem. Or how about I drive? Oh, if in that moment I really just wanted to make sure I had access to my car because I needed to get to something different. And I would be like, no, I'll meet you there, whatever. Or, oh, we actually had Mediterranean that other one day. Okay, well, you know what? Why don't you guys go grab your Chinese? I'm going to go pick up my order and then we'll meet back here for lunch. Does that work? And no one was like, oh my God, you're such a party pooper. Why don't you want Nobody.
It's all a dialogue within our own heads. The critic, all of it. It's like the moment I realized I'm doing this to me, I'm doing this to myself, I'm breaking myself down, I'm not speaking my truth, I'm constantly choosing to sacrifice, I'm constantly saying yes when I want to say no. It's all about me making these decisions. Then I can actually choose and change those decisions.
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing me. It's just these self-imposed expectations.
Yeah.
Which are
to
so
go
unhealthy.
along, to be good.
Don't rock the boat.
Not rock the boat. Right?
Don't rock the boat.
So that was one. So I assessed and I was like, what feels right? Okay, what does it feel like to say something? What does it feel like to not say something? Right? Like I still have those moments. Like there's a lot of things like my mom will say and I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am, right? And then I'm like, okay, but I'm gonna work on that. I'm working on that, right? Like those are our constant internal conversations. And then the thing that I started to notice is that I started to create these things for me that made me feel good, right?
I love that.
I honestly always thought, and I don't know where I got this idea, and maybe once upon a time in like elementary and we're given homework of like how to create like something from a little like fava bean in a plastic bag is the image I'm getting. And I must have killed mine. I had to have, because the message was, you don't have a green thumb. Oh, yours died. Yeah, we shouldn't try. Okay. So let's go with so-and-so's because theirs is, better. Creating roots or whatever it was. So for 100 million years, I don't know how long it's been, minutes, seconds, whatever it was, I always thought I did not have a green thumb. So I move into this house and I have the space and I'm thinking, I probably have to hire a couple of people to come and give me some landscaping because I don't want to kill that stuff. Like I've killed plants, like I've been gifted plants and I'm like, they're dead. Don't give me plants, please, And I kept having this thought, like, I'm just going to kill stuff. So I moved here and I thought, you know what? Actually, this was a conversation I had with somebody. She's telling me, I have such a green thumb. She's like, I will revive plants. And I was like, how did, she's like, well, aren't you a Virgo? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I'm a Virgo. She goes, did you know that our earth sign is very like green thumb oriented? And then your something sign is like the fire in X, Y, and Z. She explained it to the point that I literally
you believed it.
I have a green thumb. I do.
I love it. I love it.
Wendy, I literally went out and bought me, and this is really interesting. I bought me 6 plants at Home Depot. Right. I love the Day of the Dead. It's my favorite holiday. And we have these plants, these marigolds, right? Beautiful orange marigolds. So I bought them early so that they can be in full bloom for, November 1st and 2nd. And then I think it was at the 99-cent store and I saw marigolds in little packets. And I was like, well, what's the point? I just bought these 6 plants. They'll be, oh, well, you know what? Worst case scenario, I'll kill them. Fine. So I buy them. And this half of the planter has all these 6 beautiful blooms. And here I dug up the dirt, and I had bought new dirt, and I put them in, and I, watered, and I was taking care of my plants. And then all of a sudden I see these little, like,
shoots.
Yes, come up. And I was like, oh my God, they're like, right? And I remember I was so like shocked and surprised, and I was like so happy that I was like, oh my goodness. So every day I was so excited. I would walk out there and I would water my plants, and I would be like, look at these beautiful young ladies. Oh my God, they're going to grow up and be so cute. Oh my God, ladies. And I was having this whole
talking
conversation.
To your plants, loving your plants.
100%. I mean, not that I was ignoring the other ones, but I was like, these need
there was
love,
a special
right?
pride in those seeds that you got to bloom.
100%. Yeah. They got to bloom. The plant is probably about 3 feet tall.
Oh my gosh. Okay?
And they bloomed beautifully, right in time for the Day of the Dead. Right?
Oh my gosh.
And these other
store-bought ones never grew. They didn't die immediately, but they just stayed. So somebody had told me, oh, well, that's how store-bought plants are. They're not meant to, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I'd water them, and I'd go out there, and I'd be like, hey, beautifuls, how are, look, oh, you guys are doing great. Look, oh, big sister over here. Look, come on, you guys. Like, I'd have this whole thing, and they ended up like just withering away. And I thought that was interesting. My other plants are still out there. Oh my gosh.
They endured winter. They
Crazy.
endured, and the winter was cold. So, I heard this conversation. I was like, where did I get that thought that I didn't have a green thumb? Let me try it. She convinces me I have a green thumb. I was like, Virgo, earth sign, yes, makes sense. Let's plant. And there they are, right?
Yeah.
So I do this thing often where I go and I try something new, and I figure out, do I like it? Does it set my soul on fire? Right? And there's things that I get into really like excited, like, oh, this is going to be fun, and this is going to be, and then later on I'm like, yeah, not so much.
But again, I mean, like I said, we can always choose to pivot, and we get something from just the experience of doing it. Even if it's something that doesn't resonate, but it sounded exciting. Say you sign up for a dance class and you're like, this is intimidating and it's not for me, but you had the courage to do it. And every time we challenge ourselves and we get out to our comfort zone, like I always call it getting to the edge, going to our edge. How far can we go to our edge and push the boundary a little bit and challenge ourselves a little bit? Even if it's not something we stick with, we took ourselves there and we just expanded a little bit in the process, and that's what's happening. I love it with your gardening and your home projects and your practice. And, for those of you who don't know, I've had Lili on my show 3 times, and I suggest you go back to our first couple of interviews because she started as an unwed single mom of 2 babies, no college education, no money, trying to juggle a job, putting herself through college, taking care of these 2 babies on her own. Her story is so inspiring to see her come from that young woman facing all this adversity to now just thriving. I mean, your journey has been so inspiring to me. I think I cried my eyes out during our first interview. Not many people bring me to tears, but your story really did. It's just been so amazing to watch you really claim yourself, own and claim yourself in a way that, really inspires others to come forward and stop selling themselves short and to claim their power and unpack all those programs and stories that we tell that are keeping us from really truly living our best lives.
100%. Thank you for that, Wendy.
Of course.
And you're right. There's so much history in that, and what was programmed and what I learned from that family of origin, and how there was a lot of things that I just swept under the rug and moved forward. And I was this good girl, and I was, you talk about being that spider monkey. I was like, okay, what box? Oh, that box, that smaller box. Okay, I'll make it work.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's huge.
And you know, as you become a mother, you know, you start to realize, I don't want my kids to be in that box. Okay, wait a
And
minute, what am I
also, don't you
doing?
catch yourself in the programming? Like we repeat what we learn from our
Oh, yes,
parents. So
yes.
I'd catch myself pushing my kids to take certain classes or to try harder, or
Mhm,
you've got to take an
mhm,
instrument. That's what Asians do.
mm,
You play an
mm,
instrument, pick an instrument, you got to play a sport, you know, like,
mm.
and then I'd catch myself and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a mother. I'm turning into my mother. What am I doing? But you don't even see it. It's just so programmed and you're just doing what
Yeah,
you learned. You know,
yeah.
you have to consciously unravel that.
And sometimes it's in the moment that you're like,
Right.
oh my God, that was totally my mom, right? Or you're like, um, mm. I caught myself in that many times.
Right.
I did. Or I sometimes would think about, my kids are so different. They're day and night,
Mhm.
literally, like figuratively and physically. Like I have this light skinned, you know, güerito blonde boy that we call güero. And then, you know, my other son that's just like, he's my color and he's darker and he has these features, and that's how different they are. So I
Mhm.
knew very early on I could not talk to them the same, because my older is like just this wholehearted human. To this moment, he's the one that just sometimes makes me pause.
Mhm.
He says some things, Wendy, that I'm like, what planet are you
Like so
from?
profound.
So profound. Or
He
he'll
just
tell me to
drops
like,
it in, and you're like,
he's just like,
I need 3 days to process what you just said to me.
uh, I'm I'm a I'm gonna think about that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my other one, like he's that type of soul. He is an
Mhm.
old soul. My other one, he's like this lively, fun, vivacious, like adrenaline seeking junkie. Like he's jumped out of airplanes, and
Oh
you know,
my
he's a
God.
hot shot, and he's like, you know, riding in helicopters to go into these mountains to put out these fires. And I'm like, oh my God, like just
Night and
completely
day.
different.
Yeah.
And often found myself thinking, okay, I can't talk to him the way I talk to him. And I can't talk to him the way I talk to him, because it's never gonna. So luckily, I often caught myself thinking, how do I say the same thing to him? Because
Mhm.
he needs a
He needs to receive it in a different way.
different way.
Yeah.
I had to be very gentle in one way, and I had to be very direct in another.
I'm really
And
amazed that you had that consciousness so early in your parenting journey, because I did not. And I have since apologized to my kids. And it took years for them to realize I'm not that person anymore. I'm like, I love you no matter what, do whatever, lights your fire. You know, none of them, neither of them were into that corporate box. They're both creative, they're both artistic, they're one's musical, one's very athletic. They think differently. They're not, they came into my life to teach me how to accept who they are and love them unconditionally, and not push all of my agendas and my programs onto them. And I'm just so glad I got to this place so I could really show up with unconditional love and no agenda, no attachment. I'm not defined by what they do or don't do. And I just soak them in for the beautiful humans that they are. I just love them so much.
that part of like, they came in to teach us some
They
lessons.
did. They
And on
did.
both of this one drops them, and I'm just like, I gotta think about this one's like, Mom, you got a little, you know, like he's such the pusher. So, you know, one of the things is that I had this thought of for a while. When we met, I think it's one of the things that I shared at the class we were in, that I wanted
Yeah.
to have this podcast.
Yes.
And that had been like 5-6 years in the making. So
Mhm.
finally, when I came into this place of like, I can do whatever I want now, I can do whatever I want with my time, and I can divide my time this way, and I can work on the podcast idea, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. My kids were like, do it. When are you doing it? When are you starting it? Well, who are you interviewing? How's it going? What are you doing? They went out and they bought me this beautiful neon sign. I guess the signs that you see like at like restaurants and bars with like names on them.
Are you
And they
serious?
this was, I looked, I mean, I've had it, and
That
it's
is
in my
so
room.
cool.
It says Las Beauties on it, and it's in
Mm-hmm.
pink and black,
Mm-hmm.
and it lights up this beautiful fuchsia color. And they gave it to me for a birthday 2019. And
Really?
yeah, That's how much
Wow.
they believed and pushed me to do things.
I love it. I
Where are
love
you? What are you
it.
doing? Well, there's a sign. Have you used it? Have you put it? Have you done it? Have you done it? Have you,
They
are
must
you
have been
recording?
so excited when you actually did it and you
Oh,
put that first podcast out. That must have felt so good.
they were like, so at one point, this is what happened with the recording of it. I kept pushing it off. Nope, I can't because
There's that
this might
perfectionist thing, right? It
always,
has to look perfect. It
I
needs to
don't
be
have the mic.
scripted.
I haven't written the script.
Mhm.
I have this, but I don't have this. And I was at one moment, I just said, stop,
You have to do it. Just do it.
just record and let it be what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Boom. It all came
And
out.
here it is. And it came out exactly as it needed to. And you've had incredible guests. Now, if people are searching for you, I know you're on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and it's Lost Beauties, Beautys is the name
Podcast.
of
That's
the
it.
podcast. And
Yeah.
tell me what your sole mission is
Oh,
for the
just the fact that you
podcast.
used soul. So here's the interesting part of it. The goal has been to definitely bring forward information. I feel like in the year, not only in life experience as a mother, as a parent, as a
Mhm.
friend, right, as a worker, as a supervisor, mental health clinician, all of these roles have really brought in a lot of experience, and I've had
Mhm.
a lot of experiences that I know that would be really beneficial to parents and families that are going through really difficult times. Communicating with our kids is really important. Setting a platform for being able to talk about the difficult things that we still in this moment with our own families of origin do not talk about, right? We
Right.
continue to sweep things under the rug, and we talk about domestic violence and abuse, and what does that look like. So the initial first few uh podcasts, the episodes was really just that part. One of them talking about soul searching and soul CPR, and being able to talk about unburdening the soul. And those few have just been a couple of minutes of like just this journey, kind of a little bit of what I've talked about today.
Mhm.
And to be able to sort of set this platform of how we gather information, learn about ourselves, and then sort of move into what it needs to be next. And so I have tons of like thoughts and ideas and topics, and then like people that I need to go out and approach to be able to have really solid conversations about just things that other people might need to hear in this moment. And honestly, the part of just record, make it happen, see what happens, and let it, I think that part of evolving it into what it needs to be will happen, just the way it was. Like my soul, it feels like my soul's dying, I need to do something about it. Quitting my job and doing this on my, like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I figured it out. I went from 3 days a week to 5 days a week, just working from 8 to 1, and
And
I'm like,
you can continue to shift and pivot and evolve, and there's no right or wrong structure. That's the thing, is we need to give ourselves permission and freedom to choose something different and know that when you step into alignment, so everything's energy for me, right? As a healer, as a coach, when you keep taking incremental aligned steps with your soul,
mm,
you will never fail. You will never fail because you're saying more of this, more of this. I'm aligning more with this timeline because this is who I am. And the universe just starts delivering. Like the abundance comes in, the clients come in, the opportunity comes in. And it's like just literally law of attraction because you are aligned with your soul purpose. All the distractions, all the excuses, all the reasons are not moving you forward. They're delaying your growth,
yep,
right?
yep, all of that. And I'm listening, I'm thinking, you know, we can hear that over and over and over, because for me, I'll speak for myself. I've read that. I've felt it. I, I provide that to others, to my sisters. My boys have believed in the universe since they were like 6 or 7 years old, like
Right.
that law of attraction part.
Right.
My son calls his, universe Chewy, Chewbacca. That's like, he's like, Chewy got this for me.
I love it.
Chewy found me a parking, and I'm just like,
I love it.
he's amazing, right? So
I love it.
so there's those moments that we're like, yep, that's what it feels like. This feels right. I'm walking in that align. This feels right. And when we start to, and that's a really important part, I think. I don't know if it's just part of the plan. We're not really taught to be in touch with emotions.
Not at all.
Not yours. Everybody else's. Be aware. Are they sad? Go make them happy. Are they sad? Go help them. Go, they're lonely. They have, go do. What do you feel? What does that feel like for you? So being in touch with our own emotions, me being in touch with my emotions and knowing what is it that I like and what feels right, and following that. And when it doesn't feel right, to be like, not so much. It reminds me of when I got my first degree in accounting out of high school, went to college, got a degree in accounting, and I finished and I graduated and I did well and I liked it. I got my first job in a high-rise building at an accounting firm. And within 2 weeks, Wendy, I knew that was not for me.
You're like, hard no.
Hard no.
And then what do you do with it? Like, you just got this degree and landed this job.
What is my mom going to say? Oh my gosh.
All of it, right?
All these things, like, what are people going to say? Oh my God, you just went 2 years. You just wasted 2 years of your life. What's wrong with you? And I said, my only thought was, and it's funny that I don't know if the thought was, I remember thinking I will literally wither away. That was my thought.
You had this knowing already.
I knew, because wow. I was not able to like have conversations like, hey, how are you? How's it going? No, it was just like sit there in your cubicle and do. Yeah. I'm like, that's not me. I quit. And I was like, I need to figure out what's next. Did it go to waste? No, it did not. I did taxes for like 19 years, which I love. January through April. I'm like, I'm good. This is good. But that's not the field I went to. And do I have that in my back pocket for anything and everything that I want to use tomorrow? Sure, it's there. But we have to go out and be like, is this for me?
Does this resonate?
Hard no.
Does this resonate? And then honor the knowing.
Exactly.
You could know it, but not do anything about it. And then this is when that soul crushing, health issues and life altering experiences happen, because we're always being guided to our alignment. And sometimes it looks like chaos.
Exactly, right. We have to go through some stuff to be able to get to the other side.
Right.
But sometimes, and I think this is that part of us, and for many of us that think, well, they told me to go to school. I'm in school. They told me to do this thing. I'm doing this thing. I'm working at this thing, and I'm not really happy, but it's just the thing. I pays the bills. It's whatever I do. It's my 9 to 5.
And then don't you find that you settle for mediocrity because it's comfortable? Yeah. It's that consistent check. You have benefits. I wonder how many people are out there just living this soul crushing life without an awareness that if you just let it go, something better's coming for you. Something else is out there for you, a better partner, a better business opportunity, a better friendship. If you surround yourself with things that don't resonate, there's no room for all of that magic to come in. There's no room for that right partner if you're holding on to that toxic one. There's no room for that fulfilling career. If you had stayed in that other agency, there's no room for that beautiful house to belong to you if you continue to just keep your thinking and mindset in this very small box.
100. As you say that part, like that, just like, that's so true. When if anybody was to go back and listen to the first episode, and we talked about manifesting that house and how that house came about. And I had seen this house and I was like, that's my house.
Such a crazy story.
Right. And I was like, this is my house. Oh my God. I moved in. Oh, Wendy, I loved that house into the beauty that I left it in. I put flooring and I redid my bathrooms, and I was like, I'd walk into my house
It's so
even after
yummy.
a 2-3 hour drive and just be like, oh,
Your
it hugged me.
sanctuary.
It would
Yes.
hug me when I'd walk
Mhm.
in. And when the decision came to like sell the house, do you know how many people approached me and were like, wow, really? You've only been here for 2 years and this was your house. You manifested this house. And I was like, yeah, in that moment, this is what I needed to do and be.
And now you're evolving and you're ready for
And
that
now it's
next thing,
different. And
right?
now it's for the next thing. And I'm sorry you feel that way because maybe you feel stuck where you are and you're
Right,
afraid to let go of your stuff.
right, right.
But this needed to be what it needed to be for me in this moment. And maybe it just needed to be my sanctuary to go and heal and find out that I love to do these projects
Projects.
and updating
Yeah.
and blah, 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 and move forward. Right. And I
You know
think
what
sometimes
else,
we get stuck
Lily,
in
that you're doing and you're not even aware you're doing it is you are inspiring people to step out of the box. They're
that.
like, she's doing it. You're writing this blueprint. You're creating this template for others to follow by being bold enough to do it yourself. Because people are watching. People are always paying attention, even the critics. They're watching you. They want to take you down because they feel insecure or they're jealous. They want to talk shit about you, whatever. I'm like, well, you have fun with that. I'm going to stay on my path and I'm going to keep going and keep shining and keep rising. You have fun with that because that doesn't define who I am.
Right. Right.
But they're watching,
Yep.
you know?
And my thought at the end of that was, you can thank you for your opinion. You're absolutely right. This is where I'm at today. And just because it was what it was in that moment, it doesn't mean I can't change today.
Right.
It doesn't mean I can't change my mind. And when you think about people that are in relationships for 10, 15, 30, 50 years and they're just
Miserable. Yeah.
and you're like, because you didn't have the guts to look outside of that and be like, what do I want? Does this make me happy?
What do I deserve?
What do I deserve?
What do I deserve? And I think worthiness is such a huge part of it. Like I had to learn to feel worthy. I need to embrace my worthiness to invite abundance in. You cannot be in a place where you feel small and unworthy and living in a contracted vibrational energy and expect the world to bless you with all this abundance and opportunity and great people. You have to be it to attract it. And
100%.
getting to that place of wholeness within ourselves and that place of pure knowing that we are worthy. We are born worthy. There's nothing external that determines your worth and value as a human being
100%.
because you come in that way. When you learn to embrace that and run with that and show up in your life because you know that and you're not trying to prove it or earn it or chase it, your life will completely change. And that's what we do with our work. That's what we do with our clients. We get you to see, we reflect to you your beauty, your frequency, your potential, your worthiness. And we shine that mirror, we hold that mirror up for you to really receive it and clear all that gunk and garbage that you've been taught and told your whole life so you can level up and transform your life. That's what we do.
To what you want it to be.
Exactly.
What you need it to be for
exactly.
you. To
and you
feel
do
like,
it for you. Yes.
Exactly. Right? To feel that sense of your soul saying, this is what it is. This is what I meant. This is what I was talking about. This is why I gave you anxiety. This is why I gave you aches and pains because,
right.
I was watching one of Oprah's, she was having a conversation with, I want to say it was maybe Brene Brown. And she says, it's when your soul whispers initially, and then it turns into this like louder voice and then this roar. And then it's that, right? And you see it happen throughout our lives where there's like, you don't get the promotion you want. You're like, oh, I'm going to work harder instead of like, this isn't it.
Maybe that wasn't for me. Maybe there's something greater coming.
Exactly. So like, there's always going to be that sort of voice inside saying, and we sometimes have to, and this this is the challenge. Staying so still to listen and not ignore it, because we've been taught from a very young age to ignore what it is that you're thinking and feeling. You pay attention to what I'm telling you. When I tell you you're hungry, you're hungry. When I tell you you're not hungry, you're not hungry. So we start to look externally for all of that validation, right? And when does anybody ask you, how's your soul doing today?
Right. And don't you think, Lili, that all of that conditioning and programming is teaching us not to trust ourselves?
100%.
Ever. So when you don't trust yourself, you're like, well, what do you think? Should I move? Should I sell my house? Should I apply for that job? Nobody says, check in. Like, how do you feel about that? And so if it's like a muscle, if you don't exercise that muscle and increase your capacity to hold and connect and hear yourself, you're going to be yanked like a puppet on a string, doing all these things for other people and never learning that the most valuable thing you can do is honor your truth at all costs. Because your life will just be beautiful if you have the courage to do it. It's like it requires so much courage. But I mean, you and I both can say it's worth it on the other side.
100%.
Like, go for it.
Do it.
Jump. Trust. Like, just go for it.
Try it.
Because you're going to learn something about yourself in the process.
Yep.
Be fearless. 100%. Be fearless.
Right. What I say now is be Goldilocks. That's all. Be Goldilocks.
Try out every size.
Try every size. Try every color, shade, temperature. Try it. Try it. Nope, too hot. Nope, too cold. Ooh,
here's the sweet spot. I'm going to stay here.
This is the sweet spot.
Right.
Right? This job, this opportunity, this. Try it. Try it. Mm-hmm. You're going to find yours. Listen to what feels right for you, because you're right. We are often looking for that external. Wow, this job looks really good on you. Wow, this position, this title. Ooh, that is.
That income, that car. Mm-hmm.
You're on track.
And then you get it all and you're miserable because that wasn't your dream. That was your mom's dream. That was your husband's dream. That was your friend's dream. That wasn't your dream, So I think on that, we just have to end this beautiful conversation and tell people to really step into your truth. And thank you so much for being with me today. I loved every moment. You're so inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to my audience, thank you so much for joining us today. Go out in the world. Feel your way forward. Be kind to yourselves. And I love y'all. I'll talk to you later. Bye.